Okay, so today we're going to be learning about the dangers of something called deforestation. Now, you don't need to know just yet what that is, because obviously today we are going to learn all about it. Okay, so I want you to first of all have a think about what do you think when you look at these pictures. So we've obviously got a chair, a piece of wood, some toilet paper, some normal paper. What do you think about when you see these? Just pause the video now, have a think, and then we'll discuss it after. Okay, so here are a few things you might have thought about. Paper aeroplanes that you can make from the paper, bow and arrows, books made out of paper, furniture or firewood. So obviously all of this we can turn into these objects. Now, what do you think the impact is of these objects when we think about trees and forests? So I just want you to have a think now and then pause the video and then we'll see what you've come up with. So you could have said that in order for us to make paper or toilet paper or furniture, we obviously have to use the wood from the trees to be able to do that. So this would mean that obviously we would need to cut down trees and to take the wood out of forest or woodland so that we can use those trees to turn into paper or into furniture also. Okay, so around 30% of the earth is covered by trees, and obviously we know from looking at this picture the highlighted green areas are where the main rainforests are, which we've already looked at. So we've got obviously the Amazon, we've got the Congo, we've got Madagascar, Southeast Asia, where we would find a lot of where the woodland is, where it's a dry, humid climate, so perfect for rainforests to grow. Okay, so looking at rainforests, we can see that they only cover 6% of the earth. So if the earth is 100%, it only covers 6%, which is actually a really small amount. However, it is home to about 50% of all plants and animals. So there's so many different plants and animals that live in the rainforest. So it's so important that we do keep the rainforest for the animals. There are about 1,500 flowering plants, 400 species of birds, 700 species of trees, and obviously different species of butterflies and insects as well, which is why we need to look after these animals so much. There's obviously as well other animals, including lizards and jaguars and leopards, turtles, frogs, all these different creatures that live in the rainforest. So why are they important? So rainforests are so important for many different reasons. Obviously, we've just talked about animals. They are the home for the animals. So that will come up in just a second. But we can also say they're the lungs of the earth, because remember, we breathe out in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide in order for us to live. So if we didn't have oxygen, we wouldn't be able to survive. So it's so important because trees and plants, they produce the oxygen for us to be able to breathe. As they breathe in carbon dioxide, so what we breathe out, and they breathe out oxygen, what we breathe in. So without plants and humans, we survive together. Medicines, 25% of medicines come from plants found in the rainforest. So if we didn't have the plants and the trees in the rainforest, our medicines wouldn't be able to be produced to help us feel better. And it's so important in medicines, especially at different current times where there's so many more illnesses and diseases, that we need these fantastic medicines to help us and make us feel better. Obviously, we know that the rainforest has lots of rain because of the name rainforest, and it's almost raining every day. So the trees soak up the water, so prevent erosion, because what would happen is when it rains so much, the soil will fall. If the trees aren't there to hold the soil in place, the soil will move down into the rivers and into the lakes, and this can also cause flooding or blockages. So the flooding would obviously cause more problems if the trees were not there to stop the soil from moving. But the rainforests are disappearing. So do you know why? Why are the rainforests disappearing? So pause the video now, have a think, why are they disappearing? Okay, so this is what we call deforestation, and deforestation occurs when trees are cut down across a wide area, which is then used for other uses. Okay, so we can see that deforestation, we know a forest is where there's lots of trees, so if it's deforestation, it means it's taking away all those trees to use for other, to make different furnitures, paper, things like that we use today, but it also means that there's the room there for different reasons as well, which we're going to look at next. And so did you know that every minute an area of a rainforest the size of a football pitch is cleared down? So if it continues and we continue to cut down these trees, we're going to have no trees left in the rainforest. So why are they cut down? So we've already talked about using them for paper and for building and firewood. We've talked about using them for furniture, especially trees like teak and mahogany, which are always used for really strong wood for furniture as well. So there are 7 billion people on the planet, and it keeps going up and up and up, and obviously the more people that are, the more people are using paper, furniture, and so needing for the trees to be cut down. However, the land that the trees are cut from is also used for farming, because obviously as more people arrive and there's more people in the world, that means we need more food, so we need more land for farming with. Now there's two different types of farming which link to deforestation. So there's the first type, which is subsistence farming, and this is where small parts are cut down and burnt in order to make the nutrients in the soil much better for either growing or for the cattle to graze on. There's also commercial farming, which is on a much larger scale. This is where forests are cleared permanently, so completely got rid of altogether, to help for grazing cattle or for producing areas for crops to grow for us to be able to eat from and use the products from. So what are the effects? So we've talked a little bit about this one already. Soil erosion. So without tree roots, the soil will move, and as it rains, the soil will move into the rivers and streams, which could lead to flooding and also contaminated drinking water. So there's less clean water to drink because of the soil that's now in the rivers. Droughts, so trees are important at the part of the water cycle, so without them there will be a lack of rain, because when we've talked about the water cycle in the past, obviously the rain, it comes down, it's then taken up by the plants to be released into the air and condensed and go back into the clouds to recycle again. So without the plants and trees, the water cycle cannot happen, and so therefore the amount of rain that comes down would get less and less and less. So the next effect is lack of biodiversity. So the number of different species becomes much smaller. So animals cannot survive because their habitats are destroyed, so they obviously get a loss of habitat, and therefore that's why animals become extinct, because of the changing of the habitat. And obviously that means that less animals and different species are not available in the rainforest because they haven't got anywhere to live and have that shelter. Climate change is something that we're going to be looking at greatly in the next couple of weeks. Now, climate change is something when the weather changes and how that has negative effects on our planet. Now, some scientists believe that deforestation is having such a massive effect on our climate because they saw this carbon dioxide when they actually cut down the trees. This carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, is actually in the atmosphere, and that's causing something called global warming, leading to a greenhouse gas effect. Now, not to worry too much about that at this time, because we are going to be looking a lot into climate change, as I said, over the next few weeks, but just to know that scientists believe that because we're cutting down trees, there's more carbon dioxide in the air, which is leading to global warming and climate change. Okay, so your task today is, now we've gone through and had a look at what deforestation is, what effect it has on the planet and the dangers of this, I would like you now to produce a poster to tell me all about things you've learnt today in this lesson and things about the dangers of deforestation. So it could be you set something up like this. Okay, so you've put dangers of deforestation, you've told me a few of the dangers, okay, and then you can go and describe them. Okay, don't just write them, just tell me a little bit about them. and then to present it beautifully with some pictures. So for example, if it's talking about biodiversity or about animals and habitat loss, you might want to draw some animals. If it's talking about trees being cut down and how this can lead to droughts, you might want to draw some pictures of where the trees are piled up as logs and have been cut down. Okay, so I want you to produce a poster now to really show everything that we've looked at. You can obviously go back through the slides, which will be on Seesaw, or you can go back and listen again to the areas where you might want to write about, so that you really have demonstrate that really fantastic understanding of what you understand what deforestation is, this being the cutting down of trees in forests and in jungles to make room for either crops to be grown, for cattle to be grazed, or for the use of the wood to be used for things like furniture, building and paper. So I'd like you to do that. Once you have completed that, if you can then please put your work on Seesaw so I can have a look at it, and please present this beautifully. I will send it back if I think that you've not put quite enough detail or not enough pictures or information on there. So please make sure that it's done beautifully and correctly first time and put onto Seesaw as well.